Welcome to another episode of Fill in the Blank podcast. I'm here with my weather chasing, tornado twisting sidekick, Brooks Holloway.
How you doing, Robbie?
Brooks, what's better than chasing a storm?
There's nothing better than chasing a storm. You get your heart rate up, man. I love that adrenaline pump.
Are you a big weather fanatic?
I'm not really, but I love watching videos and stuff like that.
Are you fascinated with the Earth's magical natural things that it has to offer?
Absolutely, I'm fascinated with that kind of stuff.
Well, what comes to your mind when I say dust devil? First thing I think of, besides I guess dust and the devil, is those guys that are out there filming tornadoes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chasing those tornadoes.
I think of what's that 1920 movie?
Twister?
No, no, the with the lion and Dorothy.
Wizard of Oz?
Wizard of Oz. That's what I think.
How do you forget the name of the Wizard of Oz?
I don't know, dude. It's
Well, much like crushing a witch with a barn house, or whatever you want to call it, we're going to talk about the dust devil, also known as a sandstorm. So a dust devil is a strong, well-formed, and relatively long-lived whirlwind, ranging from small, half a meter wide and a few meters tall, to large, more than 10 meters wide and more than 1,000 meters tall. Their primary vertical motion is upward. Dust devils are usually harmless, but on rare occasions grow large enough to pose a threat to both people and property. Right now we're looking at one that's kind of looks like a tornado, but it's just made of dust. And it's literally huge, man. It's the size of a building. Imagine that, just you being trapped in that. Would that be strong enough to probably, that sand hitting you, or whatever you want to call it, dust kind of ripping off some skin?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see that. So, like, when you picture a tornado comes down to like a little ball point, and dust devils, they're just kind of like cylinder.
More like a cyclone.
Yeah, exactly. They're more round. They don't really come to that one point. Well, that one kind of does.
Imagine though, like we think about all these natural, like what's the most powerful thing is like natural stuff, right? Like we use a lot of like
wind.
energy, like wind, water, solar, all these types of things.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there are like unlimited resources, and we're still trying to figure out how to harness it. But like trying to understand why the moon is connected with the tides and doing all these types of things, it's just these little anomalies and these types of things that leave mystery to what the Earth has to offer.
Gravity A and B, man.
Yeah, gravity A and B. So they are comparable to tornadoes in both that as a weather phenomenon involving a vertically oriented rotating column of wind, most tornadoes are associated with a larger parent circulation, the mesocyclone on the back of a supercell thunderstorm. Dust devils form as a swirling updraft under sunny conditions during fair weather, rarely coming close to the intensity of a tornado. It's like a smaller baby version of a tornado.
Mm-hmm. Probably not as much wind.
Probably don't need to hide in the bathtub if a dust devil comes by. So a couple facts I noted with just history's information on the dust devil. The Persian ruler Cambyses II conquered Egypt in the 6th century, and his army of 50,000 set out for the Swaya oasis to seek counsel from an oracle. The army vanished consumed by a dust storm. Like, whoa. A whole army of 50,000? Vanished in a dust storm?
That
just disappeared.
That's weird, man.
So a hubub is the Arabic term for an intense dust storm that are common in the Middle East and North America. Each year, 1 to 3 storms will hit Phoenix area according to Natural, Oceanic, and Atmospheric administrations. So we're going to learn a little bit more about the formation of a dust devil and why we really don't see them here. I think probably because we don't have a whole lot of dust.
Sand.
But they're mostly common in the summer, and their area of occurrence is primarily temperate and tropical regions.
Okay.
So the effect, dust and debris lofted into the air, possibly wind damage. So we look at the formation. Dust devils form when a pocket of hot air near the surface rises quickly through cooler air above it, forming an updraft. If conditions are just right, the updraft may begin to rotate. As the air rapidly rises, the column of hot air is stretched vertically, thereby moving mass closer to the axis of rotation, which causes intensification of the spinning effect by conservation of angular momentum. The secondary flow in the dust devil causes other hot air to speed horizontally inward to the bottom of the newly forming vortex. As more hot air rushes in toward the developing vortex to replace the air that is rising, the spinning effect becomes further intensified and self-sustaining. A dust devil fully formed is a funnel-like chimney through which hot air moves both upwards and in a circle. As the hot air rises, it cools, losing its buoyancy, and eventually ceases to rise. As it rises, it displaces air, which descends outside the core of the vortex. This cool air returning acts as a balance against the spinning hot air outer wall and keeps the system stable. It seems the weirdest thing about natural disasters, we have things like an earthquake, a powerful movement in the earth shifting just everything.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one literally like this is a scenario when it happens, we don't have any way to stop it from happening. It's
Right.
just you have to hang on and pray to God that the least damage comes to you and your family and your possessions as possible. But they are known to wipe down any man-made thing. It seems like any man-made creation can be knocked down by a natural disaster. From tsunamis wiping out villages to earthquakes taking down giant civilizations and wrecking a whole country, like Haiti when they suffered a whole earthquake. That was terrible. And then you look at things like firestorms and like these burning fires, like what we had in California, for example, like the California fires. That was a giant thing, chalked up to the dust devil's cousin, the fire tornado.
Right.
So we look up these types of things, and it's just really it's severely like it's nuts to think that where we look at the earth like as this home that we live on with so many beautiful aspects. Do you see the scariness of nature as well?
Mother Nature, man. That's why we've got to respect Mother Nature. We're just making it worse, and we're making more natural disasters are natural disasters. You can't stop it, but you can help prevent the more occurrence of them.
Throughout World War, we are actually obsessed with trying to make a cyclone weapon. We were trying to find out a way that if we could use something to annihilate tornadoes and annihilate cyclones. And we had a small government project that was literally developed into flying over these tornadoes and hurricanes and dropping off these types of chemicals and releasing these types of chemicals just in our biological weaponry and chemical weaponry to try and dissipate types of cyclones and avoid these situations from happening.
I took a class in college called War in the Environment, and I learned a lot there. You can manipulate the environment to do anything. Like, for example, in the Civil War, the Confederates pretty much were wiped out because of the lack of food. That this one guy, I forget his name, just pretty much burned down everything in their path, and they had no food to forage off of or to hunt or anything. So that's part of the reason why the Union won the Civil War.
All of our resources come from nature.
Exactly, yeah.
America is prosperous only because we were given a good roll of the dice. We had the best turn of luck on where we landed on this spot, or where we found out on this spot. The resources that were beneficial to us here. The reason why Africa is suffering so badly and the people are starving to death is because all they have to eat is gold and diamonds. You can't eat that. They have to make Haitian mud cookies, which are these 90% dirt, 5% butter, 5% salt, just to keep themselves from starvation. They're willing to trade anything, all their diamonds, just for a little tiny piece of food. We are prosperous in having land that's fertile enough to grow these types of things. And that's where you see a civilization progress. All of our progress can be chalked up to the whole idea that it's all from the earth. The earth has given us this. That's why earth is looked at as a god, or this godlike creation. Just how like humans are, or we have the ability to advance, and a lot of people chalk it up to evolution and things of this sort. That's all given from the process of this earth that is seen as made by this omnificent, or this type of mysterious being or type of thing that happened. That all these events had to collide to create something so perfect and sustainable to where life could eventually survive. Without caring for the earth, where a lot of people take down the whole aspect of like not giving a crap and being able to do whatever they want because it's not going to affect them later if they die. You're on the earth now, and the earth is progressing inevitably into a downward spiral, much like we talk about like the church of euthanasia and these types of things that happen. These people that believe that the only way to save the earth is by getting rid of all human population and getting rid of anything like that. Even if human population was taken off the earth, animals would still have a giant effect on it too, because they release a certain amount of emissions as well.
Absolutely.
And the global warming is real. That is happening. And it seems like where people think about environmentalists being ridiculous, they are ridiculous in their actions because that's the only way they're going to get their message across. People that protect the environment have to go to drastic and outrageous types of messages to display their actions to be able to save the earth.
Right.
Because eventually this home has an expiration date. We have an expiration date. Our galaxy has an expiration date. There's no such thing as everlasting life that we know of. So we have this fascination for building and doing as much as we possibly can and being able to improve the race and improve everything. We need to first take steps into improving the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the world, you've got to respect it. I mean, you don't understand where exactly everything that you get comes from, and it comes from scratch, and scratch is what the world provides, and there's only a limited amount of that scratch. And if you don't understand exactly where it comes from, then you're not really helping or very environmentally conscious of that.
Do you believe in being environmentally conscious?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you believe in taking steps, and do you believe that you as one person could eventually help the earth in a way, or do you believe you can only do a small portion but a lot gets taken down?
You cannot do it physically. You cannot do it physically. You can recycle every single day, but one person, you can't do it physically. You have to convince other people through politics or pretty much anything, private businesses, ownership, that kind of stuff. You've got to be able to convince those people.
Much like this tangent that we went off on, this little rant talking about building up this type of force, we're going to talk about the building up of a dust devil tornado. Well, the spinning effect along with surface friction usually will produce a forward momentum. So the dust devil is able to sustain itself longer by moving over nearby sources of hot surface air. So sustainable hot air near the surface is channeled up by the dust devil, eventually surrounding cooler air with it being sucked in. Once this occurs, the effect is dramatic and the dust devil dissipates in seconds. Usually this occurs when the dust devil is not moving so fast or depletion or begins to enter a terrain where the surface temperatures are cooler. Certain conditions increase the likelihood of dust devil formation. These three conditions are flat, barren terrain, desert, or tarmac. Flat conditions increase the likelihood of hot air fuel being a near constant. Dusty or windy sandy conditions will cause particles to become caught up in the vortex, making the dust devil easily visible. There are necessarily or not necessarily for the formation of the vortex. Clear skies or lightly cloudy conditions. The surface needs to absorb significant amounts of solar energy to heat the air near the surface and create ideal dust devil conditions. And light or no wind and cool atmospheric temperature. The underlying factor for sustainability of a dust devil is an extreme difference in temperature between the near-surface air and the atmosphere. Windy conditions will destabilize the spinning effect of a dust devil. So let's talk about some of the intensity and duration of a dust devil. On Earth, many dust devils are usually small and weak, often less than 3 feet, 0.9 meters in diameter, with maximum winds averaging about 45 miles per hour. And they often dissipate less than a minute after forming. On rare occasions, a dust devil can grow very large and intense, sometimes reaching a diameter of up to 300 feet, with winds in excess of 60 miles per hour, and can last for upwards of 20 minutes before dissipating.
Imagine a football field by a football field.
So one scenario that happened with a dust devil was a dust devil could actually pick up radioactive particles in a form like what happened in Australia with a uranium mine. It spreaded more of a toxin and infected a bunch of people with a type of like radioactive particles because this dust devil picked up something near a uranium mine and spread it to where it wasn't supposed to be and contaminated a whole little subset of a population.
that's something that in a way that you can control by not having that there.
When you see the world create such a natural disaster that can cause so much havoc and cause so much devastation, do you see it as a way of trying to fix itself of what society and people have done to it?
See a way. Say that again.
So, okay, we build and we create all this stuff. We're taking down land, and there's only being very few places of forest left. How many places have you kind of remembered in your past as having such lush forests and places where you used to camp out and stare at the
all the
stars
time.
and play in the trees, and then you walk by it now and you see that there's a community built there?
Oh yeah, all the time.
It sucks, doesn't it?
It does.
Do you think when a tornado or an earthquake or something happens that wrecks a whole thing and levels these communities, it is sad to watch those families go through that, but at the same time, do you see it as the earth trying to heal itself with what man has basically used as a blemish on its skin?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, earthquakes, I'm not 100% on this, but to me they're 100% natural. You can't control the earth's crust. I mean,
obviously there are things that we do that can produce earthquakes and cause more of a quicker way of the earth kind of doing some type of weird activity that shouldn't have been caused in the first place, mostly with mining and underground explosions and these types of things. But do you see that as, if you look at the earth as a type of entity or type of being with thoughts or types of feelings, like Mother Earth or all this type of stuff, that we give it like kind of personification in a way? Do you see it as maybe we're just pissing it off?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna fight back. The Mother Nature's gonna win in the end. It doesn't matter.
It's like, but what steps and what things happen that cause Mother Nature to be like, hey, enough's enough?
It's got to be, I guess, pushed to its limit.
How long until that inevitable big earthquake comes? The one that's supposed to be from either it could happen tomorrow or it could happen 10,000 years from now, that eventually is going to level the whole world.
It was 2000, 2012, 2015, 2018. We don't know. It could be tomorrow, like you said.
It's crazy to think, man. And when you look at, like, these types of, like, I guess the earth fixing itself in a way, like, is that what it's just going to take, is just one big one to just stop all man-made, the human race in general? Is the earth just going to be, at one point, get pushed to the end where it's like, look, I've had enough?
It could, but to me, it's going to be more of a food and population issue.
So one quote I kind of created myself that I did when I was podcasting about the fire tornado was that the earth is like your skin. You know, people are obsessed with getting tattoos. The earth only has, let's think of tattoos as like man-made creations. The earth only has a little bit of natural skin left. Just like getting a tattoo. You're marking your skin. Eventually you're going to run out of skin. How long until the earth runs out of skin?
I don't know exactly, man. 300 years to 1,000 years.
It makes you think. And it makes you look at the world in more of a human-like way. We like to give these types of objects and things that we like to give personification to, giving human-like characteristics. You look at the earth. If you give it very human-like characteristics and stop thinking of it as an object or this type of thing that just gives you what you need. If you start looking at it more of in a conscious way, or looking at it like a person or a young child that's kind of developing along its way, how long are you going to want to promote its life instead of just ending it at the young age of 20?
Right, that's the thing though. It moves so slow, you don't see those changes in a lifetime. And environmentalists use science to monitor those changes and see how significant those changes are and what kind of impact it's making. So it's very important to understand that and not just see it yourself.
We talk about the global impacts that we cause in the world. Let's talk about some of the hazards of a dust devil tornado. So, dust devils typically do not cause injuries, but rare severe dust devils have caused damage and even deaths in the past. One such dust devil struck the Coconino County Fairgrounds in Flagstaff, Arizona on September 14, 2000, causing extensive damage to several temporary tents, stands, and booths, as well as some permanent fairground structures. Several injuries were reported, but there were no fatalities. Based on the degree of damage left behind, it is estimated that the dust devil produced winds as high as 75 miles per hour, which is equivalent to an EFO tornado. On May 19, 2003, a dust devil lifted the roof off a two-story building in Lebanon, Maine, causing it to collapse and kill a man inside. In East El Paso, Texas in 2010, 3 children in an inflatable jump house were picked up by a dust devil and lifted over 10 feet, traveling over a fence and landing in a backyard 3 houses away. That doesn't even sound like a bad thing. That sounds like a fucking awesome ride. Well, in Commerce City, Colorado in 2018, a powerful dust devil hurtled 2 porta potties into the air. No one was injured in the accident. In 2019, a large dust devil in Yuchin County, Henan Province, China, killed 2 children and injured 18 people, and 2 adults when a bouncy castle was lifted into the air. That sounds like it was a death kind of worth it because you're in a bouncy house. I mean, to die in a bouncy house is like dying in a ball pit. It's kind of like every kid's dream. So, basically, a dust devil, it raises particles into the air to unsafe levels that can mix debris, fungi, heavy metals, pollutant chemicals, and bacteria that can cause deaths in a way too. But if you look from the very beginning, where in 2003 we're just talking about somebody's roof accidentally collapsing. Then we talk about now they're getting more powerful, like in 2019, 2 children and 18 injured children and 2 adults when a bouncy castle was lifted into the air. Seems like the Earth is creating these dust devil formations a little bit stronger every year that passes. You see that as the Earth getting pissed off, like getting to a point like, hey, I'm warning you guys, I'm getting there.
Right, and the science part behind it, you said that it was caused when there's an excess amount of heat in a certain spot. Well, the more urbanization that there is, the more excess heat there's going to be because of this thing called the urban island effect, which the inside a city where there's more blacktop and more rooftops and stuff like that, that'll absorb heat. It's going to raise the temperature in that area up to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Obviously, that's not that much of a difference, but who knows? It could be. I don't know.
Here's a good quote: the more humans progress, the more Earth gets pissed off.
Exactly. Bingo.
So dust devils have been implicated in around 100 aircraft accidents. While many incidents have been simple taxiing problems, a few have had fatal consequences. Dust devils are considered major hazard among skydivers and paragliding pilots, as they can cause a parachute or glider to collapse with little to no warning. At altitudes considered too low to cut away, and to contribute to the serious injury or death of parachutists. Benefits from the sediment in the air from an Atlantic actually help and drive the biodiversity of the Amazon rainforest. A study found that the dust devil has high levels of iron and phosphorus, known to spread and actually benefit the rainforest in a way. So it's like the Earth, like, I'm going to create this disaster to destroy your man-made process, and at the same time be able to benefit myself by healing what you kind of are destroying in the first place.
Right, yeah. There's always a benefit to disaster in a way.
Yeah.
You know?
You got to look for the light, kind of.
Yeah,
exactly. The good part about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about the health effects. There's an endemic disease in some arid areas, such as southern western United States, California, and northwestern Mexico, Central America, and South America, called valley fever. Cocci fungus grows naturally in alkaline soil, and the fungus spores that lie dormant can be picked up by dust devils. They are blown around when a person or animal breathes these spores in. They cause fungal pneumonia. While usually not a serious threat, this disease is still dangerous to some people and animals, especially if they are old or of young age. So links of outbreaks of meningitis in northern Africa, as well as valley fever in the U.S. Southwest, possibly by fungal spores, has been linked with dust devils, spreading it and contaminating populations. So some of the electrical activities dust devils can cause, even small ones on Earth, can produce radio noise and electrical fields greater than 10,000 volts per meter. A dust devil picks up small dirt and dust particles. As the particles whirl around, they bump and scrape into each other and become electrically charged. The whirling charged particles also create a magnetic field that fluctuates between 3 and 30 times each second. That's fucking amazing.
A magnetic field.
Pardon my French, but that is pretty awesome, dude.
Yeah.
So these electric fields may assist the vortices in lifting material off the ground and into the atmosphere. Field experiments indicate that a dust devil can lift 1 gram of dust per second from each square meter, 10 pounds from each acre of ground over which it passes. A large dust devil measuring about 100 meters, which is 330 feet, across at its base can lift about 15 metric tons.
So it can be very destructive.
17 short tons of dust into the air in 30 minutes. Giant dust storms that sweep across the world's deserts contribute 8% of the mineral dust in the atmosphere each year during the handful of storms that occur. In comparison to the significantly smaller dust devils that twist across the deserts during the summer lift about 3 times as much as dust, thus having a greater combined impact on the dust content of the atmosphere. When this occurs, they are often called sand pillars. That's pretty badass.
That is pretty crazy. I think it's important to note that, I mean, the main cause of, or the main problem with it is how it's transferring pollutants or anything from one place to another and creating a problem.
So another one that really chalks up into my mind is Martian dust devils. Mars, the dust planet, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The giant gas giants filled with nothing but tornadoes and would be like unsustainable for any type of human life.
Mm-hmm.
So they also have dust devils. They're not as powerful as Earth. They only reach a wind speed of 55 miles per hour, but they're a hell of a lot larger and they last a lot longer. So dust devils occur on Mars and were first photographed by the Viking orbiters in the 1970s and 1997. The Mars Pathfinder lander detected a dust devil passing over it. In the image shown here, photographed by the Mars Global Surveyor, the long dark streak is formed by a moving, swirling column of Martian atmosphere. The dust devil itself is climbing over the crater wall. The streaks on the right are sand dunes on the crater floor. Martian dust devils can be up to 50 times as wide and 10 times as high as terrestrial dust devils, and large ones may pose a threat to terrestrial technology sent to Mars. On the 7th of November 2016, 5 such dust devils ranging in heights of 0.5 to 1.9 kilometers were imaged in a single observation by Mars Orbiter mission in Martian southern hemisphere. Filmed Martian dust devil last year was 12 miles tall.
That's crazy. I was just thinking, when you said Mars, I was trying to think of the movie name, but I just looked it up.
Martian.
The Martian.
Yeah.
That's
With
exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, mission members monitoring the Spirit rover on Mars reported on March 12, 2005, that a lucky encounter with a dust devil had cleaned the solar panels of that robot. Power levels dramatically increased, and daily science work has anticipated it to be expanded. A similar phenomenon, solar panels mysteriously cleaned or accumulated by dust, had previously been observed with the Opportunity rover, and dust devils have also suspected as the cause. So, not only are they taller, but they're wider in stature. They also turned back on and gave power back to our rovers. These rovers that we sent out
That's insane.
and are on these planets doing basically our research for us, because we can't go there ourselves.
Right.
We have to send these machines. Eventually, dust gets clogged up in it.
Mm-hmm.
Much like you use your phone, the more you use it, the more memory gets used and the slower it gets.
Mm-hmm.
The rovers eventually start slowing down because all this dust and dirt getting attracted into it. And then a dust devil passes over it and next thing you know, cleans it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it wipes out all the dust and everything with wind.
I mean,
next thing you
it's
know,
beneficial.
Wow, our solar panels are working on a rover again. We're going to have research even more now.
Mm-hmm.
Bam, benefiting society on planets far away.
It is.
So if we, it's really, we talk about the related phenomena. Like we talk about fire swirls, tornadoes, all these different types of things that happen. When we look at a dust devil, there are also things called fire devils or fire tornadoes that can be seen during intense fires in combustible building structures, or more commonly in forest or brush fires. A fire whirl is a vortex-shaped formation of burning gases being released from combustible material. The genesis of this vortex, probably similar to that of a dust devil, as distinct from the dust devil, it is improbable that the height reached by the fire gas vortex is greater than the visible height of the vertical flames because of turbulence in surrounding gases that inhibit creation of a stable boundary layer between the rotating rising gases relative to the surrounding gases. I'm way too dumb to understand what that meant, but I believe that they can only get to a certain high point, unlike tornadoes that just focus off air. But with fire, the fire can only get so high because there's only a limited amount that the atmosphere can travel for. Like if you try and suffocate a flame, you're cutting off oxygen to it.
The troposphere.
Yeah, so if a flame can only get to a certain height. When air starts to get a little bit thinner, it starts to dissipate. So why they only reach a limited amount of height. Same thing with dust devils. They only reach a limited amount of height. But then there's types of thing like ash devils that are just ash. Then there's things like steam devils that are just steam that you get from rising from power plants called steam devils. And then you get the same conditions can produce a snow whirlwind, although differential in heating is more difficult in snow-covered areas. It seems like where we talk about, I'm not worried about dust devils because that's just in Arizona. We can still have tornadoes here. We just have a different form. Yeah. Based on the land that we have here. It's still the earth can hit us anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Midwest is, all like desert and stuff like that, and that's where tornadoes are most common.
What's your takeaway on the dust devil, man?
I mean, I don't know if humans' impact has really, if humans really have made an impact in increasing the amount of dust devils or anything, but it's definitely a really big, it's not as bad as a tornado, but apparently they occur more often than a tornado. So it could be, I mean, if they could, be up to a football field by a football field, it could do some substantial damage.
One job that gets a lot of crap, and it's actually probably the hardest to have is, hardest and the easiest. The hardest thing to do is be a weatherman.
Oh my gosh.
It's easy.
They get shit on all the time.
Yeah, it's easy to get things wrong because the weather is so unpredictable, man. They're only giving an estimate of what they think is going to happen. You're only taking like that and you think that he's giving factual evidence. A lot of the times they're wrong is because of how unpredictable weather is.
Exactly.
We live in one of the places, for example, that has weather that changes constantly. We can have all seasons in one week, you know what I mean?
Right.
Rain, snow, all that stuff could happen. And it's just because our environment's so ever-changing, especially being so close to the water. I think this is the one place we don't have to worry too much about hurricanes because they're always attracted to water and go out to sea. Things of this sort, we have a tornado warning. It seems like the sea diverges it and brings it down somewhere else because I don't know if we're just lucky in that situation.
Yeah, I don't know either, honestly.
Do you think, when I ask you the question of what do you think of dust devils, the main question I want to ask you is, do you think that it's, do you look at it as just a natural thing that has no meaning to it, or do you see it as how I see it, where it's the earth trying to fix itself from man's disastrous or causes?
Yeah, I mean, all kind of disasters can really back up what you're trying to say. But the dust devil, it's not as destructive as a lot of other natural occurrences.
So you see it more as a warning.
Warning, yeah. Bingo. I like that.
I think we definitely need to take more precautions into the care that we put in our earth and definitely take a lot more time in being environmentally conscious because, there's only one point. I mean, how long until you keep pushing something until eventually it pushes back?
Right, and who knows, it could even be in our lifetime. It very well could.
Exactly. So, anybody that wants to look up dust devils and try and get some pictures and look at some of the stuff, they're pretty amazing, man. I mean, you look at the beauty that nature has to offer and also how destructive it can be. It really just brings up to the whole aspect of how weather is just so unpredictable. And thanks for listening to this episode of Fill in the Blank Podcast, and stay tuned for the next episode.